What's going on, guys? This is Zach, the Wretched Watchman here, bringing you a special video. I don't do special videos too often, but every once in a while I just feel led to do it, and in this case I feel led to do this one. So I'm sure you guys are aware of the times that we're living in right now. There's a lot of end times, last days things happening. We can get caught up with all the information and all the things going on, and sometimes we tend to lose track maybe of some of the smaller things, or maybe some of the things that are closer to home than really what's going on further on the outside. And there's been a few things that have really kind of stuck out to me and continue to show themselves to me. And we're living in a time of a lot of self-seeking, selfishness, and compromise. These are significant things that are going on right now that a lot of us, and I throw myself in that as well, a lot of us, we do and we're caught up in without even necessarily knowing it, or again, in the way of compromise, we let these selfishness seek through, and so we compromise and try and make excuses, or work our way around, find a loophole in some type of way on these things. And I don't think that's what we should be doing as Christ followers. I don't think we should be doing that to satisfy our fleshly desires. I don't think we should be doing that. I just, again, I'm not excluding myself. I'm not perfect in any way, but I try and make different decisions and change what I do and the things that I do and stuff if I know that they're not for the Lord, even if it's something that I enjoy, even if it's something that I feel, and I use the word feel specifically, even if I feel like I'm doing it for the Lord when there's more to it. I'm just looking at the surface and not going further down. And so that word surface has been a word that has really stuck out to me probably the past week and a half, 2 weeks. I believe it's a word that the Lord has put on my heart, and it's something that I've been doing. It's pretty much the reason why I started that series, the End Times New Age series, is because I wanted to dig beyond the surface. I wanted to dig further down and find out information regarding why we see what we're happening out there and what's holding it all together. And that's the mystery religion. And that mystery religion has gotten into our church in ways that we either don't see it or we just accept it because we selfishly enjoy it and make compromises and excuses to keep it. And so we never really dig beyond the surface. And so before I get into what I want to talk about with this, I guess I should go ahead and explain who I am, because I think it's kind of important when it comes to this conversation. And I'm not a pastor. I'm not a Bible scholar. Don't ever claim to be one. If anybody ever asks me or calls me that, I make sure I let them know that that is not me. I am not in that position, and I don't believe that I am qualified to hold either one of those titles, like many men who do, and they deserve to have those titles. But I believe that the Lord has taken me on a journey into a specific area for specific knowledge on things. And at the time, I didn't recognize it, but now looking back after I've been pulled out of it, I understand why the Lord put me in that position, and He put me through a journey that at the time, again, I didn't know why I was there. But I'm thankful and blessed that He did, because I came out with a lot of knowledge and experience that I wouldn't have if I wasn't in there. So I've grown up in a Christian family. I went to church further back than I can even remember. So I grew up in the church, come from a family of musicians, and I followed along with that and became a musician. I'm a musician for over, well, it's like 22, 23, 24 years now that I've been a musician. And so as soon as I started playing music, growing up in the church, I started getting involved playing with the worship teams, a youth group, and all that stuff. And we went to sound churches until I decided to move out on my own in order to pursue a music career, a Christian music career, and that put me into some positions of being involved with the NAR church, being completely surrounded, and even helping write, structure, create new modern worship music, all so that I can continue to try and pursue doing the Christian band that I wanted to do. And along the way, there were some things that I was coming across, things I was hearing, seeing that, they didn't sit right with me, but I was willing to compromise. I was willing to look past, willing to just go through the motions of those in order to continue to push my way into doing Christian music. And as I did that, I kept getting further into the NAR church and kept seeing more and more and more of what they were doing on things. I never actually participated in some of these satanic and demonic practices that they do, but I did partake in and help establish and create satanic and demonic music because of the beliefs of these people that I was working with, because they, from what I could tell, didn't have the proper understanding of the true Jesus Christ of the Bible. And so the music that they were playing was coming from people of the same nature, which we'll get into, but also they also didn't have quite the right understanding of who Jesus was either. And that's a hard thing to sometimes swallow. You can recognize it, but you don't want to believe it. But sometimes you just have to be able to swallow those hard pills. And so luckily I shouldn't say luckily, that's a bad habit that I'm trying to break, so I apologize for that. I'm thankful and blessed that for many years through all that, the Lord finally woke me up. The Holy Spirit, I always say, took a baseball bat to my conscience and told me to start digging into what this stuff actually means, where it comes from, who's involved, what they believe, and ultimately take it all the way back to the beginning with what's going on with mystery religion, which we'll see come to a head. Well, we'll be up in heaven looking down at the moment, but we read in Revelation will come to a head and become the one world religion. And so, because of that firsthand knowledge and experience, I was able to learn a lot of things that I just don't think I would have understood, learned, or even begin to look into if I didn't happen to be there. And so I have some background and some history on the NAR church, the music that's involved, how all these things go about, who these songs are written to, and all of that nature. I don't claim to be an expert on this field either, but I do have firsthand experience and things that the Lord has, I believe, guided me to learn. And so, like I said, there's this word surface that's really been put on my heart lately. And I want to take a look at the definition of surface, because I think it's important that we get the definition of this. And there's multiple definitions here. I took one from noun, one from adjective, and one from verb. And they are very telling when it comes to this. Surface, the outer face, outside, or exterior boundary of a thing. Outermost or uppermost layer of an area. Exterior, the outside, the face. Apparent rather than real. Superficial. So it's apparent. It's a show. This is what it shows, even though that might not be what it really is. It's superficial. And then to finish the surface of, give a particular kind of surface to, make even or smooth. So the outside, the outermost face, the exterior of it can all give off a showing of what is apparent or what is smooth or what is artificial, superficial, what is not necessarily what's below the surface. And so if we continue to just look at the surface of things, we will never really find out what's behind it or underneath. We will continue to just go off of what is displayed on the outside. You know, the classic cliche that people like to throw around, don't judge a book by its cover. That's only looking at the surface level and not looking any further than that. And so when it comes to a lot of what we see going on in these specific months that I'm recording this is October. This is a time where we tend to, as Christians, as believers, only look at the surface level of things. Specifically, when it comes to holidays, we look at things like Halloween and Christmas, and we tend to celebrate these things without actually knowing what's underneath the surface. And I don't think that's good. I think we need to learn underneath the surface, or those who do have an understanding, they just continue about it with a certain mindset, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this isn't about the holidays and stuff like that, even though what I'm going to say does apply somewhat to looking into those as well. But this has to do with music, and this has been a recent topic lately because we've seen, if you haven't, there's some videos out there that people have been talking about. There's some musicians that have put out videos. There's been some videos and podcasts done by pastors as well, all on the topics of music. And music is always a hot button issue. It's always talked about often, I would say. But just recently, it's kind of picked up a little bit of steam. So I want to go ahead and throw my hat into the ring on this, seeing as I have some background and experience. So one of the biggest things that I got to use my words carefully here. I will say disappointed, saddened, and I'll say righteously angered a bit comes from some of these pastors who are taking the approach with music of, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what these people do. I don't know what they teach. I don't care. But the music is good, and I look at the lyrics and they seem fine. They are biblically fine. Well, here's the problem. If you're only looking at the lyrics and you're not looking beyond that surface at who is bringing the music around, then that's the problem. Because as we just looked at the definitions of surface, things can appear on the outside, externally on the face, as smooth and wonderful and beautiful. But below the surface, it could be a whole different monster. And in the case of what's going on with modern worship music, or CCM, Christian Contemporary Worship, or Christian Contemporary Music, that's what's exactly going on. They only want you looking at the surface. They don't want you going any deeper than that. Satan doesn't want you going any deeper than that. And of course, like I said, you may think, oh, as long as the words are biblically sound and they fit doctrinally and they don't go against the scripture, I urge you to look beyond the surface, because right now, when we take a look at all the things going on, specifically in prophecy, specifically in the political theater that we see going on out there, people only look at the surface level rather than diving deeper into it and having a true understanding of what lies beneath that external appearance that it shows us. The thing is, when it comes to the music, again, while they may look, because there's some songs out there that I've talked about on this channel regarding, like Waymaker and Oceans and stuff like that. Even if you just read through it on the surface level, they look fine. But if you find a deeper meaning of where these songs are coming from, and then look at what these songs actually say, you'll see that they're not biblically sound either. They just appear to be. But the thing is when you look at the musicians and the cults, I won't even call them churches, that produce these music, and yes, I'm calling out you, Hillsong, Elevation, and Bethel, but there's plenty more out there, and anybody who comes from their music labels and whatnot. It's the spirit behind the song. It's the spirit behind the music that matters. I was in a position where we were structuring songs and putting things together, and then after that, I went and I learned exactly how these new age vibrations and frequencies and song structures work in order to be a psychological ploy on people's minds. And there's something very evil behind what they're doing. The people at Hillsong Elevation Bethel, and all these other ones, Maverick City Music, Passion, all these other churches, all the musicians that come from these backgrounds, Sean Foich, Danny Goki, all these other ones, they have a misunderstanding of who Jesus is. They do not worship the same Jesus. They come from an NAR background, whether it's Kingdom Now, Dominion Theory, whether it's New Age mystical practices and rituals that they do, whether it's having a skewed version of who Jesus actually is through the view of modalism or something like that. All these people do not know the true Jesus. And so they write music to these false Jesuses, these false idols, these false gods. Then they send it out for other churches with a surface level coat of paint that says, hey, this is Christian. And then they get paid every single time you sing that song. You see, it's not about the surface. It's not about the lyrics, if they're biblically or okay or not. It goes much further than that. This is about understanding the spirit behind the song, who is singing it. Now, don't come at me with the excuse of, we're all sinners. You're just attacking these people because they sin too. We are all sinners. And there are plenty of hymns and other good songs from sinners that are a-okay to sing. Why? Because they have a true understanding of Jesus. They're not in it for self. They're not in it for a new age belief. They're not in it for a false Jesus. They're not in it for money. They're not in it for fame. They're not in it for business. They have written music for us to sing, to worship Jesus alone, because they have a proper understanding of who Jesus is. But these other ones, they do not. So it has nothing to do with, oh, you're just coming at them because they sin. Everybody sins. It has nothing to do with that. That's not even in this conversation. Keep it out of it. The question, though, is, why are you allowing this music in there? Why do you not care where it comes from? Why are you not willing to learn where it comes from? And in the case of some pastors, you will sit there knowing this stuff and then continue to go, it doesn't matter, and come up with some excuse using the Bible, twisting it in some type of way to keep it. This has to do, when I look at stuff like that, when pastors say, I don't care, or they're defending it in some type of way, even though they know better. This tells me that it has to do with popularity. It has to do with numbers. They understand that this is the popular music. And if they were to take it away, their numbers would drop. They would get pushback from the congregation of, why aren't you singing these songs? I love these songs. They're not willing to take that heat. But yet there's some pastors out there, and I'll give him praise and props for that, of David Henneke, who I don't know anything really about him except for the sermon that he taught on false teachers, where he was a new pastor, walked into the church, was sent an email asking if they played Bethel music. He didn't know anything about it. He spent time, a new pastor at this church, spent time to learn about Bethel, then went up there, talked to his worship leader, and said, we're not going to sing these songs anymore. The worship leader and his band left the church. And then the pastor, went up on the pulpit and said, we're not going to be singing this music anymore from these people because this is why. And he laid it out. He did what the pastor was supposed to do. He had the backbone. He had the spine to face his church. He had the drive to go and learn about something that he didn't know. Why? Because he cared. Because he did his job as a pastor to protect the people in his church. A new pastor with an already built congregation. And he went in and started a fire where a fire needed to be started. I just don't think pastors are willing to take a stand for the truth when it comes to going against the popular vote, going against or maybe facing an outcry of a certain select few that sit in their congregation. I don't think that they're willing to do that. The other thing we have to understand is supporting these music groups and these cults that produce this music. People don't understand that every time you play these songs in your church, these churches have to have CCLI licenses. They have to keep a tally of how many times they play these songs through their churches. They can't alter them in any type of way, otherwise there's copyright infringement. When have we gotten to this point where there's copyright infringement in churches because we have to pay them money in order to do these things? Where is the Lord? Where is God in all of that? Where is Jesus in all of that? That is the church completely losing their way. That is the church of becoming the Laodicean church, where their focus is entirely on money and profit and fame and keeping their property of these songs because they want it to get out to so many people, because then they get paid for it. This is a business. There's no God in that. This is exactly the story of when Jesus went into the temple and started flipping tables. This is exactly what it is. Why is it okay for Jesus to go and flip tables in the temple when they're selling things in his thing? But why is it not okay to start forcing that stuff out in our churches when it comes to music? It's the same thing. It's just modernized for today. The focus isn't on the Lord. The focus is on, this is what's popular. This is what keeps our congregation here and happy. And for the other people producing the music, this is how we gain our best life now. It's become profit. It's become a market in the temple. But yet pastors don't want to see that. I saw this the other day. Shout out to Justin Peters, who actually, kind of weird, I would say, take a stand, seeing that he's he's crippled, but he takes a stand on this stuff. He posted this: false teachers, the only thing holding them up are the people who support them. Guess who's supporting them? The pastors in the churches that don't know and don't care and want to go with the popular thing, because every time they sing the song that entertains their congregation, they pay these organizations to go out and preach a false gospel, a false Jesus, have them partake in demonic and satanic rituals and practices that are going to send hundreds of thousands of people to hell. But because it's popular, because they don't have the spine to stand up to the outcry of a select few in their congregation, they're going to go ahead and continue to support the people sending people to hell. The other excuse that I've heard is, well, my focus is on Jesus when I sing these songs. Even though these songs might be written to a different Jesus, my focus is on Jesus, so it's okay. Okay? I'm going to bust out my Ouija board, and since my focus is on trying to communicate with Jesus, it's okay. Some people might look at that and go, that's ridiculous, that's extreme. No, it's the same thing. If these songs are written about a different Jesus, about a different gospel, some other God, that's exactly what you're doing. So, no, it's not different. It's not extreme. It's the same thing. That excuse doesn't fly of, well, my focus is on this, so it's okay. It doesn't work that way. It never works that way. This is the avenue of selfishness, of self-seeking. Us as believers, and we look at the prophecies that's going on, we like to throw around certain prophetic lists in the book in verses and whatnot that describe what today is going to be like, and we like to point out things. We'll even talk about the selfishness and the self-seeking that are listed in what's going on in the end times and everything like that, without even realizing, hey, I'm doing that too by making a compromise and excuse to make this fit. We look at some of these verses. 2 Timothy 4, 1 through 5 says, I charge you, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at his appearing and at his kingdom. Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all long-suffering and teaching, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, their selfishness, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth. How many people have heard the truth about these things and then continue to say, well, my focus, self, your own desire to hang on to this earthly thing, even though you know the truth, you're willing to compromise on it? And they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. But you be watchful in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of evangelist, fulfill your ministry. It's the same thing that applies. We talk about these verses all the time, but it's the same thing that fits. But according to their own desires, because you desire to listen to this music because your flesh likes it that much. Even though you know the truth of where it comes from and what's going on behind it, you will make the excuse. You will turn away from the truth in order to hang on to that fleshly music, even though you know that it's not good. I've made reference to this recently with James 3, 13 through 18. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, and demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. This earthly, sensual, demonic wisdom, there's only two wisdoms, one from God and the other, this mystery wisdom, is self-seeking. It's earthly. It's sensual. It seduces. And then right here, 2 Peter 2, 1 through 3. This one is big. But there were also false prophets among the people, even as there will be false teachers among you, who will secretly, that means beyond the surface. They will do it in hiding, in secret. They will wrap it up in a nice, wonderful, smooth way on the outside, a good exterior, but a rotten core. They will secretly bring in destructive heresies, songs about false gospels, about false Christs, about all these things other than what they're actually about. Even denying the Lord who brought them, and bring on themselves swift destruction. And many will follow their destructive ways, because of whom the way of truth will be blasphemed. By covetousness, they will exploit you with deceptive words. You mean the words of the songs, of these worship songs? They'll exploit you through them? For a long time, their judgment has not been idle, and their destruction does not slumber. That third verse explains it all. By covetousness, they will exploit you. They will exploit you with these words. There's so much beyond the surface of this music. Stop making excuses. Stop trying to twist it around and go, well, even though the song is written about such and such, my focus is on this. It's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. There's plenty of songs out there that sound like they're written to God, but if you dig into who wrote them, no, it's about a completely different God. It's about someone entirely different. And that's the spirit of the song. Just because your focus is somewhere else does not change that fact. It does not change that fact. We've gotten to this point here from Charles Spurgeon. It says, a time will come when instead of shepherds feeding the sheep, the church will have clowns entertaining the goats. That's all this is now, right? Pastors want to play these songs because they're popular. They keep their congregations entertained. And they don't care enough to feed and protect their sheep with knowledge of these things. And so the church continues to implode on itself, allowing satanic music and teachings to come in at the same time, actively funding these musicians and these cults to produce a false gospel that will send people to hell. That's a double whammy. We should absolutely care, and if we don't know, we should absolutely learn, and we should make changes. We should be willing to make changes. We should be strong enough to make changes. It's important to understand that this thing that tends to get tossed around as trivial, as with music, is, in my opinion, the greatest danger to the church today. Because this music is in every church, including your favorite pastor, and even the church that I attend online. I don't even watch to worship for my church. I refuse to engage in it. I will skip it and wait till the message comes on, because I don't want that. I don't need that. It's the last thing I need. But I know a lot of people will go, my pastor doesn't do it. Guaranteed he probably does. He probably doesn't know. This is the most dangerous thing, in my opinion, for the modern church. It is destroying churches because you're allowing mystery religion. You're allowing these demons to come in through this music, because there's a lot more than just changing the focus of it, because you are channeling in demonic spirits when these songs are played. And a lot of destructive things, once it gets in the church, starts to take place. It's important to understand that Satan was the heavenly worship angel. He was the worship leader in heaven before he decided that he was like God and got thrown down. You don't think Satan is going to be using his old position to try and fool some people? To try and allow his demons and his darkness to get into the churches through the music? A lot of people like to make reference. Yes, Satan is the prince of the power of the air. Yeah, a lot of people like to say that, but they never want to use it when it comes to the music. Because a lot of people might think, oh, I don't need to worry about that. I can, as long as we're not singing it in church, I can just listen to it on Spotify and YouTube and all these other places. They get paid for that too. The only way out is to just throw it out completely. You've got Satan, the worship angel, and the power of the air, the airwaves. He is utilizing that as his number one weapon. One, that corrupts the church, and two, these songs are sung in a whole heaping load of churches out there that aren't even Christian. These songs are sung One, it could be sung in a Mormon church, a Jehovah's Witness church, a Catholic church, and a Baptist church all on the same Sunday. That should tell you something. This is bringing about mystery religion into all these churches, which we know eventually becomes that one world religion. Satan is using it, and he is counting on your ignorance. He is counting on your lack of caring. He's counting on your compromise. He's counting on your excuses. He's counting on you to say, well, my focus is on Jesus, so it's okay. He's counting on you to only look at the surface. He only wants you to look at the surface, that smooth exterior, that superficial exterior. He doesn't want you to go below the surface. He doesn't want you to go beyond the surface. He doesn't want you to care. He doesn't want you to know. And he's counting on it. And unfortunately, most churches are falling right into exactly what he wants.